Tá bom, então começamos. Tá. Já tá todo mundo dentro? Tá, então chama eles, né? Aí. Vou copiar pra cá. Esse pode entregar para mim.
Me pediram para dar as boas-vindas para todo mundo em nome da Fundação. Então, bem-vindo para todo mundo aqui. Esperamos uma manhã muito interessante. Eu sei, da minha parte, vai ser muito interessante saber mais sobre o projeto, ouvir as diferentes experiências e ideias. Então, é isso. Welcome to everybody here. In name of the school and the Fundação Getúlio Vargas. It's nice to have you all in São Paulo. São Paulo's behaving itself in terms of weather, which means it's totally unpredictable as usual. Unfortunately, it's not hot, but it's not raining, so that's at least a point. But it's very nice to have you here, and please feel at home while you're here. And I know we're going to have a very interesting morning. We'll be jumping around between languages, I think, but we'll find our way through. So very warm welcome to all our visitors who've come long ways to travel to get us here, both inside Brazil and from outside Brazil. And let's get on with it.
Bom dia a todos. Obrigado, Peter, pela introdução. Thank you very much for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. It's a big pleasure to be here. And thank you all for coming and responding to our call to present our project. It's really like very, very nice for me to be here to introduce to you this project, which is the result of a journey of like series of discussions and developments that led to this begin, which is which I would like to share with you a little bit now. So our project called Waterproofing Data, engaging stakeholders in the sustainable governance of flood risks. This is an international research project. I am João Porto de Albuquerque from the University of Warwick in the UK. I am the principal investigator and one of the main investigators of this project, and I will be presenting to you this first session and introducing a bit of the project, the context and the background, the kind of like rationale for the research project. Then we will have a session which is from my colleagues which are involved in the different parts of the project, the work packages. And we'll have like quick presentations from each of our work packages. And in the end, we will have one thing which we are like pretty much looking forward to, which is a more interactive session on discussions in which we would like to hear your feedback and your perspectives as well on the topics we are researching, and so that we could consider them. So this project, Waterproofing Data, as the name says, starting by the title, which was like coined by Joe Gardner-Hansen, our colleague investigator. It's a play of words with waterproofing data, making the data waterproof, but also like playing with the words with different connotations of future-proofing and different like ways of like thinking about data in different ways. It's interesting, when we translated this in Portuguese, we did dados à prova d'água, which is, we found a suitable translation and a suitable play of words as well, because dados à prova d'água is also a prova da água, or the proof of the water. And that's part of it, of the project, is also generating evidence about water and floods. So the proof of the water is a kind of like secondary play of words that we did in the translation, taken on from Joe's begin. So this project is obviously about floods and flood risks, and I would like to set the scene by talking a bit about the importance of like researching on floods and data. So one first motivation comes from the, of course, relevance of flood resilience worldwide. I put just some pictures here which might be known for you or not. These are related to the impact of disasters in general, and in particularly floods. So as you can see here, floods is the most impacting type of natural hazards worldwide here. Which has a considerable and significant cause of damage and economic and some human losses as well. And this is increasing over the last 10 years, as you can see here in the statistics from the UN SDR. And of course, flood resilience is considered today a crucial part of like current international agendas on disaster risk reduction, on urban development, the Habitat 3, and the Sustainable Development Goals, which is prominently features resilience as part of the SDG 11, which is the Sustainable Development Goal related to sustainable cities. So that sets the scene and gives a bit of the international context and relevance of looking at floods on the one hand. On the other hand, we have here in this project an international collaboration of three different countries or institutions in three different countries: Brazil, UK, and Germany. And of course, adding to these kind of like discourse of policy relevance, there is a kind of like a practical relevance of floods in these three different countries. I brought some pictures here, just kind of like as a teaser, or like kind of like a symbol of like situations which are faced by the three different countries, which are apparently similar, and there are of course similarities, but they are also very different. And that's exactly one motivation of researching together and doing international collaboration related to flood risks, is because these problems are similar in the three different countries, with some similarities, but also differences, and differences in approaches and solutions as well. And that's one of the motivations we have here. And the second thing is data. Well, we're talking about floods as one motivation from this project, and the second is about data, really, and the relevance of data, which when we started, probably we've been discussing this with colleagues, we have seen maybe a shift in the framings and the role of data in society, really. And there is, on the one hand, an unusual framing, which is to talk about like kind of like emerging data sources or new data sources that make unprecedented masses of data available today, that come from different sources, from what is called the Internet of Things, with like sensors, drones, but also like smartphones, which produce data and are in the pockets of most citizens today. We have open data, open government data, which is also like open access to different sorts of data, and quantification in different ways, and sensors that are spread everywhere. And of course, social media and the web as another kind of like emerging source of urban data. And when we started discussing this project, it was apparent that this data, or this kind of like potential of using data to understand better urban problems, and in particular urban floods, is being approached in different ways by different people. It's what we call different frames. And we actually started this process of the journey I told you about to reach our project by looking at different ways in which data is used in the flood monitoring. And here in the top you can see the control room of my colleagues in Semadem, in the National Early Warning Center in São José dos Campos, not far from here, in which like data is used intensively to feed decision making here and to warning and monitoring of disasters. And the second, here down you see different ways of data, which is like or different practice, as we might call it, related to data, which is the production of data by citizens. And in this case here, these pictures come from one of my projects that I'm involved, which is related to producing data with residents of slums, of urban poor neighborhoods in the global south, in this case here in Kenya, Nigeria, and Bangladesh, Dhaka. And this, all these kind of like different framings made us conscious about, that there are different ways of seeing the function of data in floods. We can see, for example, starting from here, an idea of empowering communities through data, so that like digital technologies enable people to produce data and produce different versions of their realities, and in this case the realities related to floods, which might trigger or might generate more inclusive or polyvocal information spaces, and that the effectiveness of like this process of producing data would come not only from the outcome of the activities, but the data that is generated, but also from the activities themselves that could have a transformative effect or effects. And on the other hand, we have like the usage of data, framings of data, which are quite different if you see from the control room point of view, or from the decision-making and government institutional point of view, which are interested, in this idea of citizens as sensors and data to support, to feed into decision-making, and into tapping into this new source for improving different kinds of like processes related to monitoring, and in which data is primarily focused, or the concerns with citizen-generated data are primarily focused on issues around data quality, and how to trust data that is produced by citizens using non-standardized ways of producing data. So this is a bit of a background to just to give a context about data in floods, and relationships between data and floods can be varied, right? And then we come to our project. These different frames here are actually the starting kind of like motivation for expanding. Really, when we look at these frames, we thought we need to expand, we need to rethink what is data in floods, in flood risk management, and what does data do, and how we produce data, and how we circulate data. And that was like the motivation or the background for coming to finally to our project that I would like to present today, which is called, as I started saying, engaging stakeholders in sustainable risk governance for urban resilience, waterproofing data. This project, we posed this as a response to the challenge of how to rethink flood data production and the data flow to enable transformations to build sustainable flood resilience communities. And here, some aspects are very important for us. First, rethinking. The word rethinking means that we would like really to challenge existing frames or existing ways of looking into data. As I referred to as a teaser or as a motivation, there are two, but there might be more different ways of framing the role of data. And in fact, today I think the role of data for society, it's been it's a very current and important topic, not least because of like the way data is being used or not used in different societal processes and political processes. So this project was then a response of this group, an emerging group, an interdisciplinary group of researchers, but also we could call transdisciplinary, because we also have not only researchers from different disciplines, very different disciplines, but also practitioners. And then we proposed this as a response to a call of an international association of research funders called Belmont Forum, which is this one here. It's a slightly complicated call because it's organized by Belmont Forum, which is just like a kind of like association, and they proposed this program, Transformations to Sustainability. And this program was together with another association, which is called Norface. So it's a kind of like a joint of two associations, but then the agencies which fund really the project, which put money into the project, are the national research councils of the different countries. And in our case, the countries are UK, ESRC, Economics and Social Science Research Council, the FAPESP, the São Paulo Research Foundation, and BMBF in Germany, the Federal Ministry for Education and Research. And there is a top-up from the Horizon 2020 program of the EU Commission as well. So, and then this call was very interesting for us when we started working here, and this because the whole kind of like discussions and framings of the project emerged out of a series of workshops in which we involved our colleagues from CPRM, for example, from the Brazil Geological Survey, from British Geological Survey. We had presentations from different academics from different fields, from SEMADEM, from the National Early Warning Center, and we arrived at this, and the call was asking exactly for reframing discourses on sustainability from a specific emphasizing a social science and humanities perspective, emphasizing that the collaboration between social sciences and humanities with natural sciences is very important for sustainability, and not and usually or not mainstream in the kinds of like research on sustainability at the moment, which is more driven by natural sciences. And for us, it was particularly welcome to think about the things we have been developing. And then we invited our cooperation partners and academic partners and built this consortium that generated the project Waterproofing Data. So the whole idea of the project is then, how do we take different disciplines, disciplinary perspectives that come from social sciences, humanities, natural sciences, or more computational sciences, in a way, and in order to understand and shape these frames so that we could really produce transformations. So that's the challenge, right? The challenge we have in this project, and that we would like to share with you. It's not a small challenge, which is like, we would like to really do both in this project, to rethink data production, but also to produce, to do this in a way that enables social transformation, or transformations of practices and perspectives related to flood risk management. And then these are our cooperation partners, which became very important and very involved in a strongly collaborative way. SEMADEM, National Disaster Monitoring and Early Warning Center, with which we have a great team participating and doing research together in this project. We've been interacting since quite some time, and it's really nice to have like a project to work further together. The São Paulo City Hall, specifically the Secretary for Innovation and Technology, and the Secretary of Environment in Acre, which is here present as well, and thank you very much for coming. And CPRM, Brazil Geological Survey, and British Geological Survey as supporting and cooperating organizations since the beginning, since the initial kind of like discussions of the ideas. So it's with great pleasure, really, that I receive you today to talk about this result of this journey, and then to also like as a means of opening up our research project to a wider set of stakeholders. And this is part of what we call the co-production process of research that we would like to try and experiment here in this project. So we'll talk a bit more about this in a minute. But then, as you see from the cooperation partners already, we have three. I will present the research team completely later. The institutions are presented, but then the cooperation partners already give an indication about our case studies, like so where we'll be looking this. we'll be looking into this question in 2 flood-prone communities and local governments of 2 different cities in Brazil, Rio Branco, in Acre, and São Paulo. And I think that was a very, very interesting and provocation I got from Semaden to think about the differences between floods in Brazil as being very different, actually, and of course the floods in Acre and floods in São Paulo are very different, and the contexts are very different as well. And I think this will give us a richness in terms of the challenges that we have to face, both for in the several aspects of the project. So some characteristics of our project, as just to emphasize, first is this interdisciplinary perspective. I work at the Center for Interdisciplinary Methodologies in Warwick, being a computer scientist by training in the former life, and now doing actually more, let's say, human geographic research or geographic information research. I think interdisciplinarity is something that is particularly important here for us. We have a strongly interdisciplinary team, not only what we call usually like an adjacent interdisciplinarity of fields which are already very close. You know, sometimes you have like a biophysicist working with a physicist or something like that. We are talking here about people who come from humanities perspectives and people who come from natural sciences. This is like much more interesting and more challenging as well. And the second thing is the co-production, as I said. The co-production is key for this project here, and key to understand why we are doing this launch event now. Of course, we don't have results to present. We are just kicking off the project. We're just starting. But we would like to start together and then involve in the same idea of co-production that we use it to build the research agenda that generated the project proposal that came to here with our cooperating organizations. We would like to expand this and also like be able to exchange perspectives with a wider set of stakeholders and actors from academia and from NGOs and from government organizations. And that's why we invited you. And thank you very much for coming and for sharing this interest with us. And the third one is the transformative focus, which is really a focus on doing research that can be transformative, that can transform practices and perspectives specifically. So in terms of the concrete objectives of our project, we are approaching these challenges from a methodological point of view. So our main goal is to develop new methods that have these characteristics of co-production, interdisciplinary, and transformative. So we are bringing these 3 characteristics as challenges for methodological development. And then we have 3 main objectives in this project related to methodological innovation. The first one is related to make visible the way that stakeholders engage with data. And that means really paying attention to social practices that are related to data production and usage, and being able to reveal the different nuanced usages and affordances and potentials of the use of data, and this is being led by my colleague Nathaniel Kach, who will speak about it in a minute, and conducting to this new method related to data diaries, which I think Nate will talk a bit more in a minute. The second objective is related to the engagement of the citizens, the engaging people to produce, circulate, and embed data, embed into their practices, lives, and perspectives. And this here we have a very interdisciplinary group using a set of different humanities methods that to really challenge what engagement means and then what data on flood means. For example, we have digital flood memories, my colleague Joe Gad-Hansen, data-driven installation with numerical video, and citizen science and educational approaches with Raquel Treiber. who will present in a minute, give an overview about these core methods we are developing. And the third approach is about integrating this data, this citizen-generated data, with other data sources, with traditional data sources. And of course, not only with data sources, but also with natural science models and perspectives. And here we have both an aspect of participatory mapping, but also decision support systems which rely both on geographic information with my colleagues from the Heidelberg University, Alexander Zipp and Caroline Colonna, but also natural a very strong and close collaboration with the natural sciences, in this case hydrology and meteorology, in which we have like our partners from SEMADEM apporting knowledge to understand how this data can be integrated and combined into current practices of flood risk monitoring and management. So with these, I come to what we call the work packages, and then I'm finishing my first like overview of the project with this, and I will be then inviting my colleagues who are responsible for these work packages to come and give us an overview of each work package. So we have 3 work packages related to the main objectives and main methodological innovations I just referred to. The work package 1 is called Making Data Flows Visible, and is led by Nathaniel Kasch from the University of Warwick and co-led by Giovanni Dolif from SEMADEM. We have a second work package called Community Engagement Through Data Circulation, which is led by Raquel Treiber from SEMADEM with co-leads Nerea Calvidio and Joe Gadahansen in Warwick. And we have a third work package, which is the integration and curation of data for decision support, which is led by my colleague Alexander Zipp from Heidelberg and co-led by Conrado Rudolph from SEMADEM, and which I'm involved in Caroline Colonna as well. And these 3 are the kind of like main methodological, main packages of work responsible for methodological innovation, but we have 2 very important cross-cutting work packages which really speak to the transformative aspects of our proposal. One of them is the work package 4 is Transformations Towards Waterproofing Data, led by Maria Alexandra Cunha from FGV here, and co-led by Liana Andersson from SEMADEM. And this work package is an integrative one. And the second integrative work package is the work package 5, Translation of Waterproof Data into Sustainable Flood Risk Governance, which is led by my colleague John Kofi, and I'm co-leading with him, together with Vitor Marchesini from SEMADEM. So with this overview, I will not go into detail on that, just say that what is interesting in these work packages is that each work package is very interdisciplinary by the composition of the team alone. If you look at the people who are working, for example, Maria Alexandra comes from IT and public administration, Liana comes from biology and biodiversity conservation, so a scientist, and giving just one example, and a social scientist working together. But we have the same here in the others as well, and that's I think it's the richness of our project here. And with this, I would like to ask my colleagues to come, and then I think I will open for questions in the end. But then first, I will ask my colleagues to come and give the overview of the different work packages. Now, it will be a short overview of each of the work packages. So I will ask Nathaniel Kasch. Maybe we can come all here to the work package presenters. Nathaniel Kasch, Raquel Treiber, it will be Caroline, I think, right, who will present, or Alex Zipp, and Maria Alexandra, and Vangelis. Good, okay. We have everyone. And then hand over to Nate for the first work package.
Well, thank you, João. And good morning to everybody. So I'm Nathaniel Tkach. Most people call me Nate. And I'm leading the first work package of this project, Making Visible Data Practices. My work package will involve Maria Alexandra from FGV, who I can't see at the moment. Yeah. Yes, there you are. Hello. And Giovanni at the back from Saint-Modène, as well as a postdoctoral researcher who we hope to appoint in the coming weeks. And our work package revolves around creating what we're calling data diaries. It's a particular method for making visible existing data practices in the governance of flood events. So what is a data diary? The idea aims to combine traditional ethnographic methods. Of course, the diary as a method is well established in fields of anthropology and a number of related fields, but we want to turn this method to a focus specifically on data. And so we will use some quite traditional methods such as situated observations and interviews, but our focus will be very much on trying to understand how data intervenes quite specifically in decision-making practices around the monitoring and management of flood events. So what we will do is create across 3 different sites, first of all, a data inventory that you can think of as a map, where we will try to document all the different types of data that exist and are used within a particular context. And then we will add a processual, or let's say a temporal dimension, where we will try to understand how different types of data are used quite specifically in relation to a particular flood event. So it's very micro detailed forms of observation where we try to understand specifically like which type of data is a person working in a situation room drawing upon, how are they combining different types of data, which data is privileged in particular conditions as opposed to other conditions, and we will do this across 3 sites. The first will be at Saint-Modène, and then we will also aim to do similar diaries here in Sao Paulo with the City Council, and then also in Agri as well. And the aim will be to have 3 distinct diaries, but also to understand how the data flows between these different sites. So kind of within a particular context, but also across. And the idea for this first work package is to understand the existing practices of using data. We call the sites centers of expertise because this is where the experts around flood management are positioned, or at least a certain type of expert, forms of scientific knowledge, administrative knowledge, and so on. So that's the overview of what this work package will aim to do. By the end of it, we hope to have 3 data diaries and 1 research publication to share. Thank you.
Okay, let's...
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good morning. The work package I'm going to work with Joanne here and Nerea. Oh, over there. And it combines a number of humanities methods from art and history and memory, and I'm an anthropologist and work with education. for engaging and empowering citizens through the creation of multimodal interfaces. And we have 3 areas we are going to work with. It's sensitizing communities and collecting extended data that is knowledge sharing and exchange between citizens and culture and local knowledge and science. And communicating this also in workshops and publications that have all sorts of different discourse and relations to data and to floods. Here is a drawing for better showing all the areas of that we are going to work in this circle that is dynamic between science, big data, as João has said, that work with analytics, and everybody is involved in this, even in the communities, and we saw this in Brazil recently, how much people are engaged into this big data. And also citizen science, this science that is produced by citizens and communities and in dialogue with experts science. So it's local knowledge and citizen science. And we have all these areas of intergenerational methods, the use of 2 different kinds of apps, one for geolocalization and rain gauges, pluviometers for floods measuring, and also for memories, that is a self-creating app that Joanne is bringing, and place memory that we are going to work with the Museu da Pessoa, and Karen is here, and also this a high level of education activities, and we have the Secretary of Education of Acre and of São Paulo that is here. So all this together will happen in Acre and in São Paulo, involving schools and communities and partners, as I've said, with activities like action research and workshops with narratives, data collection and monitoring, spatial visualizations, and the apps, and contribute for data integration in the other work packages, okay, for transforming actions for building knowledge and resilience. And here is just the 2 maps, just to see that we have very different situations with rural and urban areas in Acre and a very densely populated area in São Paulo, Embu-Mirim. So that's it. Thank you.
Sorry for the beep, but we have to keep track of the time, and that's my duty now. So. Okay, let's just skip this.
Hello, my name is Alexander Zipp from Heidelberg University. I'm the work package leader of work package 3, and this has been done together with my team, of course. Caroline Glonner is sitting there, doing most of the work from our side, and also from Semaden, Göredorf, and other colleagues. Well, we produce a lot of data, obviously, in different work packages, and somehow it needs to come together, and so the work package is about integration and curation of the data for actually making it usable for decision support. And we have different tasks and packages in our work package, which starts with looking at the base map we are using that is needed for the follow-up tasks, which is OpenStreetMap, which is a crowdsourced map on its own, so produced by citizens. You can contribute it on your very own if you are not aware of it, and it's very rich in urban areas, but of course may look very different in other places. So we need to check if it's usable, need to improve it, and need also to think about how we can assess the quality. We are working in this area in Heidelberg, producing a platform we call Awesome, the OpenStreetMap history platform, the Awesome platform, and that should help us to get an understanding about the state of OpenStreetMap and can use this information from there. In a very important part, we're producing also perception maps about flood risk, and we'll get into this in more detail. So then we can use all this information from our work package together with the data from work package 1 and 2 and need to develop some kind of data integration platform and web portal that has different outcomes and different views for different types of users, like public interfaces and also internal users at Semaden and so on, at the different centers of expertise. And of course we need to evaluate in the end all what has been done. To give you just a short impression about one of those aspects is about work we have done earlier about SCAD maps to capture flood risk perception. This is an example from Germany, Eberbach, where we have also regular flooding. And it shows that we can use, for example, the so-called OSM field papers, which allows us to go to the local communities without much technology, without computers, with printed maps, and ask them to draw where they think the risk is at different scales of the maps, because it might be very different. And then this data can be used and integrated in a semi-automated way, don't go into details here, into something that can be used then in a GIS and web interface. And some first visualizations we made from an earlier project we were working in Chile, Santiago, Chile, and that showed this information on where they think the data, flooding is occurring based on the sketch maps, but also based on several interviews. And this is just one example of how this can be looking in the end. Of course, we need to extend this approach. So that's it from my side.
Thank you, Alex.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alexandra, and I am professor here at FGV. Well, our work package 4 is led by me and my colleague Liana Anderson. Liana is from Semaden, and the objective of our project is a little ambitious because we want to promote transformation, and the work package is named Transformations Towards Waterproofing Data. The work package will work together with the local stakeholders from the previous work package, and to co-produce local governance arrangements to trying to promote transformation. And for that, we will use action research methods, and during the time of the project, we will promote some workshops and, of course, recommendations and 2 exhibitions. So going back to the project framework, after work package 1, 2, and 3, our ambition is to promote the flow of the data around flood risk management. So it's a little ambitious, but we think we will do it. We will succeed, yes. That's it. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Vangelis Bedidis. I'm a PhD student last year in the University of Warwick, and I'm going to present you Work Package 5, which is led by my supervisors, Professor John Kofi and Professor Zhao. So the role of Work Package 5 is actually to be in the middle. It's cross-cutting, and it's to document the changes that will be done by the three main research packages, Work Package 1, 2, and 3. What we want to do is like to capture the whole process of transformation in terms of governance, in terms of perceptions, and in terms of visions as well. In order to do so, we would like to analyze the current perception and vision of various stakeholders in terms of flood risk management, and we're planning on doing so through actually seeing what you think today about that and documenting that, see what other people are thinking about it, and also understand what is your vision for the future, what you think is working well and what you think is not working well in that process. Then track that change in the perceptions and visions throughout the project, and to do that we will create a framework of tracking governance change. And we'd like to synthesize the visions of the other work packages and provide a combination, an amalgamation of that vision. Finally, we will use resilience as a means for driving this transformation of data. And our goal also is to document current practices in the UK and Germany, and by the end of this project, compare that with with our findings here in Brazil. Thank you.
Hi. Yes, thank you very much for the presentations, everyone. I think we'll open then now if we have questions, general questions about the project or the work packages from the audience. We can have some minutes now, but then we will discuss them later in the interactive session as well. Do you have questions? Yes. Do you have a microphone or?
Can you hear me? Yes. I know here most of people are from the academic community, but I'm from the private, from a company, a private company. I think I received an invitation.
Yes.
Okay. Of course.
Absolutely. Yes. You're more than welcome. Yes.
Okay, I'm coming from a private company who has a Japanese group, has already developed a commercial simulation method for both flood and landsliding. So I would like to know if you can help anyway. We are open as a private company. We are open to help you anyway, although we are a private company. But we are very focused on disaster prevention. So before joining any group, I'd like to let you know that.
Oh, thank you.
If it's okay.
Absolutely, we are very welcome. Thank you for coming, and we will have a group which is specifically about the integration of data. Yes, exactly. So it will be great if you can join the discussions, and then we can brainstorm about potential synergies and collaborations, right, in the groups then in detail. Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. My name is Thierry, and I'm supporting the OpenStreetMap project. Here in Brazil, the community has been very active, has been more active than it was before. And I'm very glad that you did all this presentation. I was kind of worried, well, I'm not going to see any Google Maps somewhere, and I'm glad it was not the case, so congratulations. And I hope that effectively you will do everything with OpenStreetMap.
Yes.
It's a great project. And it's a great project also for all this purpose of transformation. The only fact of inviting communities in mapping parties just to map is something which is transforming anyway. And I just wanted to say to the people that I don't know whether someone else from the community came. I don't see because I arrived late. But I'm one of the people who are quite active here in the community. I'm the co-founder of a logistic startup, and we have already had to pay $15,000 to Google Maps, and we have decided to support the project because we want to change as soon as it will be possible. So I'm available if you need to have any support or any idea or any contact with the OSM community in Brazil. I can be the central point for any one of you who may need it. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for coming. That's why I put in the talk BR the invitation, and it's great that you came. Like it's really, I'm really glad to have you here and to work closely with the OpenStreetMap community. Alex works since long time in research in OpenStreetMap. We work very close to also like OpenStreetMap communities in different countries, and then like doing one in Brazil is one of the ideas of the co-production is really like to do together. And then of course the idea of OpenStreetMap being a volunteered initiative is to be inclusive. So definitely thank you for coming, really. I don't know, Alex, do you want to?
I'm just thrilled that you're here, and of course we can discuss later what we can actually do and how we can improve that. Yeah. So.
Great. Yes. More questions? Comments? Yes, please. Karen. Yes. No, thanks for the question. Glad to meet you in person finally. I think well, the answer here, this figure helps me to answer, I think, your question initially. If anyone else wants to complement, feel free. We are talking to like a wide set of stakeholders in this project, and then that's part of the kind of like idea of the project is to talk to these different scales and levels, both in the communities or in the people or in local organizations, as Peter told us he prefers to talk, and organized residents of the neighborhoods, and then we talk about like local governments levels, and these includes both like state and municipal level. In our case, the different stakeholders we are talking about. We are talking about this center of expertise. So a lot of our field work is related to this different kind of like scales in a very like neighborhood level scale, which is here. Here we're talking about like a city scale, and here we're talking about like a national scale. And this is like the kind of like field work, but actually we understand our stakeholders, our stakeholder groups as larger, and that's why we have private companies involved in OpenStreetMap volunteered communities, other private companies. Climatempo is also here, our partner. We have startups, we have also like other government organizations or NGOs as well. So all of them are the kind of like wider set of stakeholders, and the kind of like data that, or the idea of the projects is to really think about what data is in these different levels and how data travels through the different levels. So in each of the levels we'll have like different kinds and forms of approaching data and of like using and creating data. And that's why the different work packages in the work package 2 will be creating data with people with residents in the communities, and that will be done through the different methods, that participatory mapping, flood memories, and stories, and the data-driven installations, and to give an example. And then we go to local governments. We have like the data diaries that will document practices around data used today in flood risk management, and so forth. So it's like that's our approach basically in terms of stakeholders, is really try to be to use a kind of like multi-scale approach to capture different types of stakeholders, and of course, as Maria Shunda said, create flows between them, flows between the different frames as well. Yes.
So like in terms of the community, because you mentioned the community meeting, because you focus on the community. It's not working.
It's working.
Working? Okay.
Yeah.
So like in terms of the community, because you focused on the community, we're planning on including them in the mapping process, for instance. We're planning on including them in the mapping process so that in the process of creating their own data, of the production of data, we're planning on doing that. Just complementing.
Another example. Yes, sure.
And in the communities, we think about working with the what we call in Brazil comunidades escolares. That's the school communities that involve neighborhood and the parents of the students and the students. And it will be a great thing to get this very territorial data, and that is not digital, and also digital with all sorts of pluviometers and apps. So there is this dialogue between these different kinds of data. And I bet there is narratives also in all the others, not only digital data.
Yes. Okay, I think we... Okay. Daniel.
Well, small comment on Karen's question. I'm Daniel Rothberg from working at the São Paulo State University in West. And I think part of this stakeholder will be the river basin communities, and I'm sure you are aware of them because you are part of another research. I'm just going to research now. But you know, I know that part of this community is represented by some river basin communities that maybe be asked to join. And maybe I can help them. I don't represent them, but I have to listen. So maybe I can, create some connection.
Absolutely, yeah, that's great. Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about that. Exactly, the connection between your project, which is very interesting, I'm also participating, which is definitely related to the river basin communities. And as I think Joe, we've been discussing, that's kind of like very interesting experience, which is very particularly Brazilian in a way, and that could be necessarily has to be addressed and then also like included in the considerations. Yeah, very good. Okay, I think we are then done. Thank you very much so far. Thank you all for paying attention. We'll have like a break now. Is there a break? No, we go straight to this second and then break is later. Right, okay. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Yeah. John Woods, okay. So, okay. So I think, like, it's they are all here, like similar. Okay. Yeah, they are all here. Only three. There are only three. There are only. I thought there were five. They did. The others didn't copy because they came a bit later. Let me just check with them if they have presentations, so or if they would do only orally. Okay. What's
what's missing here. Peter has slides. Liana has slides. Thales Andreassi. That's Sean.
Okay. Okay, everybody, I think we'll begin again. My name is John Kofi. I'm a colleague of Zhao's at the University of Warwick. And as Zhao was pointing out in his introduction, this project is about transformations. And one of the start points for thinking about transformations is trying to understand the current positions that we currently hold and the current practices that we've got. So what we've asked in this session is a number of experts from various different disciplines and from various who have various interests to come and share their reflections on current practices in this very broad and interdisciplinary field of flood risk management. Can I ask our speakers to come up to the front, and then we'll take one after the other. And we'll start with you, Peter. So we all come up to the... Hi. Have we just got... Oh, 4. Okay. Want to go first, Peter?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, everybody's going to speak for about
5 minutes.
5 minutes. We'll all speak, and then we'll take some general questions or comments from the floor.
Okay. Well, good morning. We seem to be doing this in English, so I did my transparencies in Portuguese. That's an old trick. I'm Peter Spink. I'm from the Centre for Public Administration and Government here at the school. And what I want to just talk a little bit about is why we suggested that the team looked carefully at one area of São Paulo, Embu-Boimeirinho, where we've been working for about 4 or 5 years. And so what I'm just going to do is tell you about the field station that's just been set up over these 5 or 6 years in this region. And this will serve as a support in some way for the work that's going to take place, but also it will serve as alternative routes into conversations with people, and I think that's the most important thing. Into neighborhoods, into social organizations that are active in the region, cultural groups and collectives, alternative banks, a variety of different bits and pieces of everyday life that are there, which normally you wouldn't get access to on a short visit, or coming in from the top, or coming in from a formal the level of the municipality. So that's, I think, is it's an important aspect, because it will give a counterweight to the study. We say that can ground it very seriously at the local level. I use the word neighborhood. I don't use the word community, because I'll tell you a little bit about the place in a while, and you wouldn't really describe it as a community anyway. Right, what's the station? The station is very simple as an idea. It's not a place in the sense of a physical room, but it is a place in the sense of a sense of territory and a sense of connections. What we did was to get together researchers from different universities who are working on different questions linked to vulnerability. Vulnerabilities of different kinds. Material, social, institutional questions of vulnerability. And suggests that if we all worked in the same place, we could be more useful to each other and probably more useful to the place, because we will be, we can share data and information, we can share contacts, but also we can take a more connected view of the problems and issues and discuss them locally. So that was the idea. With the themes we're working on, there's people working on housing, culture, deficiency, infant health, economic development, agriculture, etc., etc. Now, normally, these would not be found together. And this is the point we like to make. Normally, what you do is you get a work group going of everybody like you. So you all discuss the same issue, and you do research in different places. We did the other way around. We got people who were working on lots of different questions, who normally would not sit down and talk together, but they do sit down and talk together because they're in the same place. So that's, I think, the key here. We are finding that doing this has enabled us to be more useful locally. We take part in a number of forums and discussions. In a very horizontal way, we're just another set of people who are around to discuss questions about. When we went there for the first time, started to talk to people, the reply we got was, well, we're always very welcome to the university. Lots of university people come here to do research. But you know what happens? They finish their research, they go away, and we never know what they did with it. Not even, sometimes we get a report, but we don't understand the report, what it means, but then they go away. So we said, well, we'll make a promise. A, we're not going to go away, or we're still there. And B, we'll try and find all these reports and we'll bring them back. And so we created an open access platform for the station in the portal of the Getúlio Vargas Foundation, and started to hunt down all sorts of studies that we've found around. And on the platform we also have lots of different contacts of information. We found 170 studies, and we started to hunt down maps, documents, reports made by the municipality, and made this all available to people. And now what we're involved with is a monthly bulletin where we pick up certain themes that we've identified as important for people and talk about those, and also share the material that's around. What we call this is research in action. It's not action research, it's research in action. That's action research, even though I've been involved in action research for a long, long, long time, has much a sense of intervention. We're not intervening, we're just being part of everything. And there are lots of other people producing information, producing ideas, producing suggestions. That's part of the life of any society. We're just another bit that's joining in with that. You know? And we hope with that, with the sort of aim that João and his team and his colleagues have of trying to change the logic of connectability, that we can help a little bit with that. I think this is the... Okay, so that's that. And then finally, just tell you a little bit about the place for the people who are not familiar with it, or people who are not quite sure what it looks like. Well, Emi Boy Mirim, this is why I don't call it a community. It's a marvelous place full of marvelous people and full of hundreds of thousands of communities and neighborhoods. São Paulo, as you know, has 11 million people. Portugal has 10 million people. Portugal has about 4 levels of political administration and collectivity. São Paulo has none, apart from the municipal government. It would be to imagine as if Portugal just had a national government and nothing else. And the Portuguese get pretty cross about that, I can tell you. Well, we live in a city which the same thing happens. We don't have anything beneath the overall level. Our conurbation of 39 municipalities is bigger than the population of Chile. And our population, the 2 districts, is 600,000 people. So that makes it the 9th largest municipality in the state of São Paulo, and bigger than 99% of the Brazilian municipalities. So it's almost like you might call an invisible city, because it's full of the things that cities have: commerce, activities, groups, churches, etc., etc., etc. But that's basically working by itself in some way. And São Paulo, as we know, has a weak sub-municipal structure. The legislation about the regional administration centers was meant to provide a basis for planning and coordination, but that just does not take place. And so basically this is another point that makes the work interesting, to see if connecting up in some way over the theme of water and risk management also can contribute to connecting up at a civic level. So that's about just what I wanted to say. Okay.
I think I'll speak from here.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for having me. My name is Fernando Nogueira. I'm a professor here at FGV. And I'm also, for the past almost 2 years, I've been working at the São Paulo City Hall in the Innovation Office. I first got in touch with the project in early, maybe March or April last year, when Professor Maria Alexandra told me about it, that they wanted to work with the São Paulo City Hall. We thought it was an interesting idea. I had the opportunity to travel to Britain, to the UK, and talk to João a little bit about the project and get the idea. And then we gave the support letter. But why the innovation office? I mean, it's a new structure of the city. Didn't exist. It's not yet 2 years old. But the idea is to bring, is to really try to structure, to bring more innovation within the government. Also to help a little bit on promoting open innovation, having startups and companies and things like that. Helping us innovate and improve the relationship to the communities. So we don't actually have no structure and projects related to flooding risk management and so on. But we thought the project was really interesting because it had some of the characteristics that we believe the integration, the approach of going from the communities to the government and using academia also. So we thought it was really interesting. I think this afternoon you have the chance to know, to get to know CGE, Centro de Gerenciamento de Emergências Climáticas, which is the Center for Management of Climatic Emergencies. It was set up in the São Paulo City Hall about 20 years ago, when there was a big flood. I don't know, they'll probably tell the story there, but there was a big flood in a central area in São Paulo, and a very important tunnel was full of water because of the rain. And then it was a big crisis for the São Paulo City Hall, the municipality, and then someone came up with the idea, oh, we should do something about it. And so it was a really interesting structure created. From what, I'm not a specialist, as you can see, on this, but from what I've been able to gather and talking to the people that are specialists within the municipality and also partners and other stakeholders, I think it seems a little bit to me that the São Paulo risk management structure and programs and policy is really a metaphor for the challenges of managing a city as big as São Paulo, which Professor Peter has brought already some of the numbers. It shows a little bit of the best and maybe the most challenging parts of running a city as big as São Paulo. There are some great infrastructures, and CGE has been doing a very important job, and Defesa Civil, which I don't know how to translate. Civil defense, yeah. So we have many areas that deal, and also the Department of Subprefeituras, which, as Peter was saying, is very challenging. This idea to try to bring the government closer to the communities, but yes, it has many challenges. We have at the same time in some areas many great infrastructure, but lacking at the same time in other areas. We have some major policies, but at the same time they don't cover everything. We have many isolated small policies and ideas and leadership, local leadership, but which aren't integrated. It is a challenge. We have many governance issues, as I'm sure this is one of the things that really spoke to me and to our experience there about this project on trying to build and understand the governance, of course, for data, but governance as a whole and how we deal with issues and break silos and things like that. And especially that technology, and this speaks very close to us in the Innovation Office, the technology is important, but it's far from being enough. We have received many visits from many startups since this Innovation Office was created early last year, and they say, oh, we have a new technology, a new sensor to understand when the rain is coming and give an early warning if there's the risk of flood. And when you try to understand everything, okay, the sensor is a great idea, but how do you create a policy around it? How do you fund it? How do you maintain it? How do you involve all the stakeholders? How do you contract it? How do you procure it? So it's really challenging. The technology is important, but sometimes it's the smallest and sometimes easiest part of the problem on solving it. So I really felicitate you all on such an important project, and I hope we can bring really good practices and results for the city of São Paulo. Thank you.
Pensei que estava fora.
Tá aqui. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Bom dia. My name is Leana Anderson, and I will introduce you CEMADEM. CEMADEM. Should I speak closer? Okay, sorry. CEMADEM is the National Center for Monitoring and Early Warning for Natural Disasters. It's a research unit from the Ministry of Science and Technology, and it was created in 2011 after that massive landslides that occurred in the mountain regions of Rio de Janeiro. I don't know if you remember. About 1,000 people died in that event, and by that time there was no official center with the aim of monitoring 24/7 Brazil in order to alert for disaster risk. As a research unit, CEMADEM is divided in two main pillars, the operational part and the research part. The operational part are the ones responsible for doing the monitoring and for sending the alerts, which goes to the Senad, and Senad is the national coordination which will send for the response teams, the civil defense. And the research team is focused on developing products, models to forecast disaster risk, models to forecast impacts, and we also generate information and knowledge to support the disaster risk reduction in terms of management and planning. Okay, and I have here some photos. This is our situation room. so you can just have an idea. We have multidisciplinary teams working there. Most of them are people with very high technical skills, with masters and their PhDs. We currently monitor around a little bit over 900 municipalities. We call the critical municipalities. As you can see, they are concentrated by the coast, is where most of the hydrological and the geological disaster events happens in Brazil. But we also produce a lot of data. We have like radars, rain gauges, hydrological stations. We have agrometeorological stations. So CEMADEM is also a big source of data, and all the data is open, of course, and you can download and access it from the website. The research is divided in 4 pillars. We have the hydrological, geological, drought, and a transversal one, that is the society. We are very lucky here today because we have people from all these working packets. Hydrological, we have Conrado Rudolph, he's sitting over there. Hi. The geological, Giovanni D'Olive, he's a meteorologist. I'm from the drought and drought impacts, and João dos Reis worked with me with wildfires in the Amazon. And the society part, which is more linked transversally with many teams of this project. We have Raquel Treiber, Débora Olivato, and Vitor Marchesini. Okay. And we do a lot of things with the society. We receive a lot of people in CEMADEM. We receive people from the civil defense for building partnerships, for capacity building, people from universities. We now have a program in Brazil, it's called Scientific Initiation. So we also acting in building this type of knowledge for disaster risk reduction in Brazil. We go to the field and interact with people, not only in terms of equipment and technical terms, but perhaps the most important, let's say, pillar of working with the society is CEMADEM Educação, and Raquel is leading here. We have the CEMADEM Educação, so we have the website, and there are a lot of activities. I invite you to take a look in the webpage, and it explains more about this project, but you can also talk with Raquel. And we have other activities. I have participated. These are 2 meetings that I have participated, working with the societies. Is the social mapping for risk perception. That one is in Acre. We have done many meetings. Here is in the situation room from Acre with Vera. She will talk about their situation room later. So we interact with a lot of people, and we also open a channel, a YouTube channel that's called Sergio Debates, and we forecast live talks that we hold at CEMADEM, and you can interact. And we already have 290 people subscribed to our channel, and we want to increase that to 1 million. And so these are the channels for communicating and interacting with the society. And well, that's it. If you have questions, I'm happy to take it in the end.
I need to put here. Okay. Okay. I put here, but no.
Talvez esteja pesado, demora pouquinho para projetar.
Here. Okay, thank you. Good morning. Thank you for the invitation, João, Alexandra, and all. My name is Vera Reis. I'm a technical director of the Climate Change Institute of the Acre State. I coordinate the situation room in Rio Branco, capital. I will talk about why Acre is part of this project. The Amazonian in general and the Acre in particular, in the last time has been marked for the frequent and several extreme events, especially in the droughts and flood. And Acre State, we have more frequent and several extreme events, especially in the capital, in the Acre River Basin, in part east the Acre State. If you can see, 2004, we have fires, increased disease respiratory in the population local. In 2010, fires affected the forest in the whole state. In the 2012, the 10 municipalities affected by flood in the whole state. In 2014, decrease of the Madeira River affected the state with the isolation of the south of the country. And 2015, 9 municipalities affected by flood in the state, and more recently, the fire and the lowest registered river low in Rio Branco especially. And then if you see the river Acre and Rio Branco during the dry season, but here is the same river and the flood record, especially in 2005, when this river affected more than 100 people in the Acre State. And then we create the situation room with an executive structure of State Commission for Environmental Risk Management in the Acre State for monitoring. We've identified the occurrence of critical events for done support to decision makers and have the response of civil defense. This commission have 3 technical committees for deforestation, fire, for floods, and hazardous chemicals in the state. The president is the makers of the secretary, environmental secretary. This commission have 14 institutions of the state, of the municipality, and the federal level. This is technical team of situation room. We talk that the situation room of Acre is a little Simadem in Acre, but is a little person working with me in this space. When the situation of disasters in the Acre, we moved to a response room in the civil defense for don't support the situation with the the ANA, CEMADEM, CPRM, and the CIPAM in situation of the fluid and the dry. The situation room support also the task force of the civil defense to direct public policies and decision making in the face of the extremist events. This committee have many institutions with part. These are the products, the situation room, and about fire, report about flood, the bulls, about situation, meteorological situation, with support of the CIPAM. And the situation room promote research with the partners. With the CEMADEM, we have a hydrological forest system for flood alert in Acre, with the support of researchers in the CEMADEM. We have research with CPRM, Serviço Geológico do Brasil, for flood alert in the hydrological alert system, especially for the Acre River Basin. We have also monitoring with the Plataforma Environmental Terra TR62. The Acre government have a technical cooperation with the INPE and the CEMADEM for this, in this case. And then this information we will use for alert the community and work with the students in the school. Now we have 9 schools in the CEMADEM Educação with the support of the Education Secretary. And then we work with the risk perception with the students and the community in general. And then this is part of the work of the situation room, but our objective, principal objective is work with the prevent disasters in general. Thank you.
Well, good morning. My name is Thales Andreassi. I'm the Vice Dean of the FGV ISP, the business school. And I just came to welcome all of you. When Dean Brito and I started our mandate as Dean and Vice Dean, we established 5 strategies. And one of these strategies is internationalize our research. And I think that the best shortcut for that is to have good partnerships with good institutions. So thank you very much for trusting our school, for trusting our professors. I do hope that this project goes deeper and further. And I'd like to express my special gratitude to our professors involved in this project, Professor Peter Spink, Professor Fernando Nogueira, and Professor Maria Alexandre. Thank you very much. And my office is in the 3rd floor. If you want to stop by for coffee, just feel free. The doors of my office is always open. If you need something from the Dean's office, just let me know. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have about 10 minutes now before we need to call this session to a close. And we've heard some very interesting experiences and vignettes in different ways from our speakers. So can I open the floor up for any questions you might have to the speakers, but also if people have a particular experience they wish to share, also that would be a good time to tell us what that is. But although there will be a session after this that we can explore those in more detail. So questions, please.
seize the opportunity that I'm given to just introduce a little bit of what we are doing. I think many of you from Brazil know Climatempo is the main company on meteorology services here. We have now, it's been 3 years, we are doing more research. I'm the research coordinator there. And we have one project also funded from FAPESC and FUNEP in smart resilient cities. And also João is one of our collaborators. We also had a support letter from Samandei. We are trying to keep in touch with this, and we are working more with the metropolitan region of São Paulo, and we are open to share all the data that we have from the project. We are dividing in 3 different steps, so we have all the meteorological part, so we have nowcasting and forecasting, a lot of smaller resolution data for the metropolitan region. Also flood forecasting. And we are also dealing with different social media data and collaborative data. And we are also doing an app that we are releasing this summer. So it's called Pedago for the region. And we are the app will also be a platform to have people collaborating and including data that we are treating and then using it to improve the alerts and the warnings for the region. So this is one of the projects that we are working on, and we are very open to share everything that we've done this 1.5 years of the project. And then just another thing, it's not really, but we have another project from FAPESC in the Amazonian watershed, and we are doing a lot of atmospheric modeling, hydrological modeling, hydrodynamics modeling, and oceanographic modeling. So we have all this, so it would be a pleasure also to maybe think of how to collaborate in this matter as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we don't seem to have any questions. I suggest we take a coffee break before the session at 11, because I guess one of the reasons we don't have questions is that people need caffeine.
Yeah. Please take all your belongings with you, because we are gonna change the
room.
The layout of the room.
Doing smart cities.
Yeah, well, we're trying to. Yeah.
We should have a chat. We run a smart city centre at Warwick.
Oh, okay, yeah,
well,
yeah.
Joel and I.
Yeah, I've been there.
Oh, you've been to?
Yeah,
You've been to? Oh, of course. When
you
were there?
Yeah, but I was there for 2 hours. So.
Oh, right, okay, that's a quick stopover.
I was in a visit in London, and then I took a train.
Oh, right, okay.
Came back.
Ah, right, okay.
But now we are deepening our smart city strategy. So
this project sort of is part of that. I mean, the girl that was speaking there talking about this interaction between smart and resilience, and actually that's sort of what this project is about, and a lot of what our other work is about trying to do, but also actually embed community knowledge in there as well, rather than it being some techie.
Of course, yeah. We always take this. I love a slide. I took a slide from Professor that people talk about smart cities as if they forget that there is an existing city. They do like a Photoshop and everything is smart. Well, there's many legacy problems and things like that.
Well, Sao Paulo is not solved, is it? Or some other, different bills.
Alguma coisa assim. Mas é importantíssimo a história de
Okay.